When you first decided to run for Congress, what was going on in your head?
Well, I just got to the place I was frustrated with what I was seeing going on in D.C. And, one of the things you never hear talked about in Congress was term limits.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we wanted to run, in fact, we even signed, was a set amount of time. Our founding fathers never designed for people to go to Washington and stay. In fact, Nancy Pelosi, I was thinking about this today. I'm 50. She came to Congress the year I graduated from high school. That goes to tell you,
I think it's time for her to go.
I think it's time, yes.
A lot of us think term limits would be a great thing. You were frustrated, wanted to see something change. What's been the biggest surprise that you've had as a member of Congress?
Well, I think the first thing that surprised me is how many hands try to get in the cookie jar, how many influences, really in the first 2 or 3 months. So you have to establish yourself. Either you're going to get swayed by lobbyists or special interests or even other things that are much more nefarious, or you're going to set the course early on. What I realized is you had to do that almost immediately as opposed to getting down some wrong trail. That was the thing that surprised me the most, is how bold some of those outside influences are when they come knocking at your door.
You have talked about that you're for term limits. You're one of the rare people that when you went in, you said you weren't going to stay forever, and you were leaving Congress at the end of this year to be true to your word and actually do what you said.
We are trying to do that. Our district was changed as well. We are looking at running for U.S. Senate, and starting January of next year, met with the president and vice president about a month and a half ago. If the president wins again, I believe we would have his support. But that is something that we'll be praying about through this year, seeing if we can make a difference, not just an argument, but to make a difference there in the U.S. Senate.
I know that you're very close to both the vice president as well as to the president.
Yes,
You've
sir.
been to the White House many times, part of which because of your position as one of the 4 ranking members on the Republican side of Congress. But it's obvious he likes you. Yeah. Do you like him?
I do. I love his candor. I believe he is exactly what this country needed, someone who did not come up part of the Washington or political system to be able to come in and speak truth. And I think he's done a wonderful job there. So.
There are clearly people, especially Christian people, who say, but he's vulgar, he's vain, he's all of these things that we're not supposed to be. So how do you answer the question when people throw that at you about this president?
Very easily. We were able to get more pro-life legislation done in President Trump's first 2 years than Congress has been able to do in the last 40 years. I'll take whatever else comes with that all day long.
Yeah. And I think also, no one's been a stronger champion for religious liberty, for Israel, for things that have mattered to many of us as believers. And I've said, I don't pretend that Donald Trump could find John 3:16 with a marked New Testament if I handed it to him.
Right.
But he has done things that I genuinely appreciate. And it's not about him personally. It's about the policies that have been carried out, a lot of which are economic policies that have really benefited working class people in this nation.
There's no question. And a third of the federal judges who were propped up by former left-wing progressive administrations have been overhauled and even changed under the first 3 years of this president. He's on record pace there, and I think that's going to change for generations to come.
We are going to be now for several weeks in the midst of an impeachment crisis. You've seen it firsthand of the House, and now it's over to the Senate. What's your big picture view, the 30,000-foot view for Mark Walker?
Sure.
In this whole process?
Well, remember, this didn't start with a Ukrainian phone call. This started 3 years ago when the president was first elected. There were 104 House Democrats that voted for the president's impeachment before this phone call was even made. So this was pre-baked in the works to remove the president, to try to stop him. I believe Mitch McConnell, I may not always agree with him everything, but I think he's handling this. He's going to wrap this up, I believe, in a very quick manner.
I want to go back to the background. You were a pastor, worship leader. How did that better prepare you to serve in public service than if you had been, let's say, the owner of a local store?
Well, first of all, maybe not a lawyer, because we already have 200 of those in Congress. So we need to start. Yes, there is.
No wonder we're in trouble.
We need to start with
that
something
says
else.
it all right there.
But I think being a pastor, and I grew up as a pastor's kid. I wanted no part of it, pursued business and finances for about 6 years. But I think being a pastor, in fact, I believe there's no better education in the world. When you've walked with people from all walks of life, regardless of political affiliation, you've seen the ups and downs, the good and the bad, you've stood beside the bed of a passing loved one, And when that family looks for you for some words of comfort and wisdom, there's no other education or training in the world, and I think that equips you to be able to go into any environment and hopefully succeed.
If you make a decision to make a go of it and run for the Senate, when would you make that decision?
We're probably looking at this fall. My term goes to January 1st of 2021. We'll probably make the decision sometime this fall and then move forward to early next year as we get moving on it.
Well, if you do, we want to have you come back. Even if you don't, we want to have you come back. What a delight to have you here, Mark.
It's been my privilege. Thank you for your great work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.